All right, welcome to Live Fully tonight, everyone. Thank you for joining. Tonight, we're going to be talking about calories and counting them versus making them count. So I have been having a lot of phone calls recently with people talking about Isagenix, but people that are not eating enough. And, wondering, skipping breakfast, the calories that they are taking in are not, quote unquote, good calories. And so, I've heard for a long time about, when you don't eat enough, that your body holds on to everything that you do eat. And so it makes it harder, to gain weight. But I wanted a little bit more detail, more information, so I could talk a little bit more intelligently to people about that, as far as what the body actually goes through when it doesn't get enough calories, or at least enough of the right calories. So I'm going to start out tonight's Zoom with a video that's about 6 minutes long. And some of you may have seen this video before. It's called Why Diets Fail. And it is an interview with Peter Greenlaw, who really breaks down, why diets don't work. And the reason why I actually invited Deb Weaver, who is on with us tonight, I think for the first time. Deb and I met at the Super Saturday in Columbia. And after I stood up and told my story about having gastric bypass, and regaining the weight and then finding Isagenix, Deb came up to me and actually introduced herself and said that she was actually also scheduled to have gastric, or maybe not scheduled, but was considering gastric bypass surgery, and ended up not having the surgery because they found cancer. And so the reason why I had called Deb this afternoon was actually about to find out more about her story, because at the event it was, crazy, like lots going on, and it was busy and people were speaking. So it was like, here, take my card, I'll catch up with you later. And so we had a chance to chat this afternoon. And I'm super grateful that after the video, we're going to hear Deb tell her story about her journey with Isagenix. She's actually lost 110 pounds with Isagenix, and we will be sure to be very compliant on this call as we talk about if with cancer is mentioned in I don't know how you could vaguely get around that. So we're not making a claim that Isagenix is in any way a cure for cancer, nor are we linking obesity with cancer. But it's just one of those things that she's been through both, and has both of them as part of her story. So I'm super excited to hear her talk about that. But in my conversation with Deb, we started talking about this whole dieting thing. And we shared, we had in common that both of us at some point in life had tried every diet out there, Nutrisystem, Weight Watchers, MetaFast, like you name it, everything. And like, why all of yes, you lose weight with all of them. And I hear that all the time when I talk to people too. It's like, well, you can't down Weight Watchers or Nutrisystem or Jenny Craig or any other system, like if someone's been successful. But what I saw in this video that you guys will see in a second is you can and will lose weight when you reduce calories, but some really negative things happen as a result of what that weight actually consists of. And then there's other biological functions that shut down or slow down in our bodies. So like weight loss aside, when you don't take in enough calories or take in the wrong calories, some other really bad stuff can be happening within our bodies that we're not even thinking about. And so we'll talk about those in a second too. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this video. Again, it's about 6 minutes, so just hang in there, and then we're going to hear from Deb. So I'll share my screen.
Resolution every year is to do what? Lose weight, right? 38% of Americans vow to stick to the latest diet craze, but will they? Our next guest, author of Why Diets Are Failing Us, explains exactly why most diets don't work. Please welcome Peter Greenlaw.
Hi, Peter. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Okay, so I have been dying to get you in this seat to ask you, why do you think diets don't work?
Well, they don't. I mean, according to the NIH, 98% of all diets fail. You got a $50 billion industry that fails 98% of the time. What a great business, right? But the basic reason is that the whole concept of dieting, which is based on reducing calories, is the most illogical thing that ever existed. What no one has ever talked about is the nutritional density of the calorie. So instead of counting calories, we should be making every calorie count. And what happens when you go on a diet and you lower calories, the thing that we're not taking into account is we're also lowering the nutritional density. We're starving ourselves to death when we go on a diet. The body goes into starvation mode and it stores fat. The exact opposite of what you
Even if you're eating, because I'm on a diet right now, and I'm reducing my calories, but I'm eating salads and vegetables, and proteins, like...
Let me know how that turns out. Okay, let's take a bowl of spinach. Watch this. A bowl of spinach, 1952, UCLA did a study that in order to equal the nutrition of one bowl of spinach from 1952, today you've got to eat 42 bowls of spinach.
Why?
Because the nutrition in our soil has been destroyed by herbicides and pesticides and over-farming. I mean, 1930, we produced about 40 bushels to the acre. Now we're doing 200 bushels to the acre. And what's happening is the soil is so broken down that the plants aren't absorbing any nutrients. You notice I'm holding an orange here, okay? Your grandmother could have eaten this orange. Today, all of us, and I love oranges, have to eat 9 oranges to equal the nutrition that our grandparents got from one orange. An apple from 1976, they estimate today you got to eat between 6 and 12 apples to equal the nutrition of one apple. So by you reducing your calories, you're putting your body in a state of starvation.
Wow.
That's why people overeat so much.
What about organic farming? Does that change at all?
202 studies last year, USA Today, proved that organic nutritionally is no different than regular food. Less pesticides and herbicides, but absolutely no difference. So the very thing that you're doing, and you may lose some weight, the one thing you're losing for sure is muscle mass. Because in
even if I'm in the gym building muscle?
You're not building muscle.
And I'm drinking protein right afterwards?
You don't have the nutrients, okay? And the thing is that in all these diets, the thing that the doctors warn against, and I'm on board, don't lose more than a pound a week on a diet because you're losing lean muscle mass. The idea is to infuse the body with massive amounts of nutrients in the fewest calories possible.
Okay, be specific on what nutrients are. How do we get them?
Okay, well, the thing that we're missing the most are basically a huge component of the periodic table, which makes up nature, okay? So you've all heard of iron and calcium and magnesium, but there's these trace elements, things like gold and silver and copper and zinc and molybdenum and boron and beryllium and even arsenic in tiny, tiny quantities that the human body needs in order to perform its functions. Well, we've destroyed those in the soils. As a matter of fact, a report to the U.S. Senate said 99% of the American people are deficient in these minerals, and any one of those can result in disease. And that report was done in 1936.
So how do we get them then?
Well, you have to go and find sources of these minerals. You need about 70, and the best organic, you're getting 10 to 12. Go ahead.
So you're saying that we are counting calories so much that now we're not getting enough nutrients and our body goes into starvation mode.
Absolutely.
What does starvation mode mean for our bodies?
Well, basically it's called ketosis. And in simple layman's terms, what it means is that the body will begin to stop burning fat and store it because we're in starvation. The body's in panic mode, basically.
So it doesn't matter how much exercise you do. No. It doesn't matter how well you...
No, that can actually make it worse because now you're eating food with no nutrition in it. And what happens is the body gets to a choice point. It only has 3 things it can burn: sugar, muscle, and fat. So what happens when you get in this depleted state, that's why the doctors say don't lose more than a pound a week on a diet, because then you're going to begin to burn muscle mass, okay?
Okay, so what do you say to those people? Okay, like, I'm just going to use it for example. She's lost a lot of weight by just cutting her calories and exercising. It's worked.
Well, let me just say this to you. The biggest factor in all of this is toxins. Toxins in the water, air, food, carpet, shampoos, whatever. As we're ingesting these toxins, what the body's doing, even for someone like yourself that's really in great shape, I work with some of the top trainers in the world, and when they take MRIs of these people that are in incredible shape around the brain, the kidney, the liver, the pancreas, we see this white halo of this toxic fat. It's called the body's toxic burden. No amount of exercise or diet gets rid of them. And the American Society of Endocrinologists named these fat cells because what the body's doing, the immune system can't deal with toxins. It takes the toxin, stuffs it in a fat cell. No amount of sit-ups, exercise, whatever will get rid of what's going on basically around your liver, etc. The body's trying to protect itself by encapsulating the toxin in fat cells. So any diet you're on, you're not losing any toxins. You could run from here to Gary even on a day like this.
So you can lose weight, but you're not losing the toxins.
Absolutely not.
I think the thing that really worries me is I spend a great deal of time and effort and money to eat healthy and to eat organic and to eat grass-fed and try to eat local, but you're saying that doesn't really help.
Food will never be enough again, period. It's just proven. I mean, over and over. There's not broccoli, Brussels sprouts, spinach. I don't care what the nutritional value is just crashing. And the scary part is we're using up the soil in North America 10 times faster than we're replacing it. There are estimates now that within 80 years, we're basically going to be a giant dust bowl because we've so over-farmed and we've so inundated the soil with herbicides and pesticides. And remember, we eat whatever they eat if it's a plant or an animal. That's what you have to guard against. And that's what nobody's talking about this. They lower calories, get rid of your carbs. Okay, that's cool. I love exercise. It's great. But it won't get rid of toxins.
How do we get rid of the toxins?
Oh, okay.
Well, we're going to talk about that in the next segment.
Let's do that.
That's a good team, because I'm hoping that there's a better ending to this, Peter, right now. This
I
is
know.
very
Yeah,
difficult.
This is
I'm not
frustrating.
happy with what you're saying.
Yeah, so
I got a whole bunch more to say.
That's right. Peter's going to give us some answers.
All right. So after the commercial, he actually goes into more detail about the minerals and vitamins, which I actually either didn't remember or never heard that part. I never saw part 2 of that video where he talks about vitamins he said it's called expensive urine unless you're getting the minerals that you need, because the vitamins actually don't have any impact. They don't do any good without the minerals. And he goes into a lot of science behind why that's so important. And so that's something that I'm definitely, going to talk with people about. And then, personally, it's like when I'm not having my Ionics, or I notice that it's been a while, since I've had the Ionics, if I'm not getting the minerals that I need, it's kind of like, well, what's the point? It's that much more difficult to actually absorb the vitamins. And then especially having had gastric bypass, the absorption is always an issue of vitamins and minerals. And so if you want to go back and look at part 2, you can just Google that, YouTube it. I think Casey also has it on her website, maybe haveitall.today. It might be on that one, I'm not sure. But, they go into a lot more detail about that. So with that, I wanted to hand it over to Deb and just have her tell a little bit about her own story with Isagenix. I mean, you can see how small she is now. She said when she had her first child, she weighed 98 pounds. I think my mom was like 107 pounds, when she had my brother. Like, just this little thing comes up to me at, Super Saturday and talks about how she lost over 100 pounds. And what I asked her this afternoon, was we started talking about this diet and calorie thing. Like, how did you get to be 100 pounds, over 100 pounds overweight? Was it being diagnosed with cancer that kind of gave you a wake-up call? Or, was it a combination of things? And then what changed? We also talked about mindset, which I shared, that is a gigantic part of the whole purpose for this group, is to really talk about what kind of a role mindset plays in being healthy, not just losing weight, but being healthy. So I'm going to turn it over, Deb, and just let you tell your story about how we met and why we met.
Okay, well, my journey started in August of 2009 when I was going to really go and get the gastric bypass, and that, like I said, they found cancer. But I did have to have surgery, and they caught the cancer early. I had no energy. And I have a bookkeeping and accounting business, and I traveled a lot as well. One of my clients, who is a holistic veterinarian, a triathlete, and she was in her 50s like me. I'm now 60. I'm 5 foot tall. My highest weight was 250 pounds, and when I measured myself, I was almost as round as I am tall. It's only 1.5 inches away, which wasn't good. Anyway, I was just so tired after the surgery, and she said, I have something that'll give you your energy back. So I said, all right. So I tried it, and after the third day, I said, something's wrong. I woke up before the alarm, and I didn't need the crowbar to get out of bed. Long story short, I kept going on with the 30-day systems. I didn't do the 2-day cleanses, but I used the cleanse. I used the Isagenix every day. I just did small amounts and didn't do the fasting. My doctors didn't want me to do the fasting. So it was about 2 years before I actually did a cleanse day and a full cleanse. But I knew that I wanted to, in my mind, my daughter had gotten married, and I said, you know what, someday I'm going to have grandkids, and I want to play with them on the floor. I want to be able to run around. I want to be able to ride horses again. I used to barrel race. I was very active in farming and everything. And so it was mindset, and the weight didn't come on like all of a sudden. It was after my first child, I gained 67 pounds. I got laid off from work because I was unloading heavy trucks, and they didn't want me to do that. So I sat home and ate bonbons and gained weight. Then had my daughter, never really lost the weight. All the other jobs I had, I was a butcher, a baker, and a bookkeeper at one company. And working in a bakery, all that stuff is so good. So the weight just kind of grew and grew, and then I would go on these diets, try everything, would lose weight and lose quite a bit, but then I'd gain it back, and plus a few other friends would come along with them. And it's something in the mind triggered me that said, you know what, if you keep going the way you're going, your husband's you're gonna die before your husband. You're not gonna be able to play with your grandkids. You're not gonna be, when you retire. My husband's retired now. We're not gonna be able to do things together. It just clicked in my head. You got to do it for yourself, not for other people. You got to want it. And now, 2 years ago, I was in a car accident in 2015. I gained a few pounds back, and now that I can exercise and I finished up with my surgery, I'm not in pain. I'm losing the weight again, but I'm moving around. And that mindset of not eating to release the pain is good. But having the Isagenix helped me not go overboard with losing the weight after the car accident. And it's easy enough to get it off with cleansing now. It's awesome, and I feel good. And my husband now introduces me as his new wife. We've been married it'll be 40 years in August. And my son comes home, he's 28, and he says, Mom, I'm having a hard time remembering what you used to look like. First time he said that, I cried. But it just feeling good, even though when I was heavy after the third day, I felt good. I was like, wow, I feel like getting up and going to work. I feel like, driving. I not that I was depressed and on medication, but you still have that depressed feeling when you're overweight, but you're tired. You can be overweight and have energy and feel good, but when you're overweight and tired, that drains you mentally. And that the Isagenix turned that tiredness into energy, and I was able to just keep going and going and keep it off. So it was October of 2009 when I started, and it took me 15 months to release the 110 pounds, and I pretty much kept it off, and I love it. I have a ton of it in my closet, share it with everybody. And I used to see my clients sometimes every 3 months, 6 months, sometimes once a year. And the first year that I lost the weight, I made an appointment with this one lady that I see once a year, and she's very hyper. And I go walking into the office. She goes, "Oh, I don't have time for you. I'm waiting for my accountant." And I was like, "I am your accountant." And she didn't recognize me. It was fun. Anybody have any questions?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, let's open it up. I mean, let's just pause there and see if anybody has some questions for Deb.
Oh, another thing, I had my doctors monitor me, because when I told him I was going to start this program, he wasn't crazy about it. And he goes, well, you know what? I have to come see you and get blood work once a week for a month, and then once a month for a year. And so monitor me. If there's something wrong, well, I'll stop. And he goes, wow, you're doing great. You're doing great. And actually, after a year, he used it for about a year, and then he retired, and I haven't heard from him, and then I got another doctor, but it was, he was like, wow, your blood work is awesome. Your blood work is awesome. And it still is awesome. All the vitamins, because they take about 10 vials of blood when I go in once a year, and they check all the vitamins and a whole bunch of other stuff. And every year it's nice and all within normal range.
Thank you, Isagenix. I love it. One of the things that we talked about this afternoon too, when we were talking about this topic of calories. And, I know that as part of the system, there's a recommended, keep meals between 400 and 600 calories. If you're snacking, keep it between 100 and 200 calories. And you said, I never calorie counted. And I said, I didn't either. Like, I never thought about it. And one thing that I read, so I was, kind of poking around this afternoon on the internet when I was looking up, stuff about calorie counting. And there was actually a study done, I think it was like University of California, San Francisco or something, where they actually studied one group of women, it's like 127 women, who were limited to a 1,200 calorie a day diet. And they had to track everything that they ate, but it was like you have to stay at 1,200 calories or less. And the second group of women recorded how many calories they were taking in, but they weren't actually limited to a number. So what they found is that the group that had to stay at 1,200 calories produced a significant more amount of cortisol, which is a stress-causing agent, which causes your appetite to get stronger, right? Like, it causes your appetite to kick in and you want to eat. And I was like, oh my God, like, it was like the light bulb came on of everybody that I've always heard, and like self included, about being a stress eater, right? Like, oh, I know I'm a stress eater. I know I'm a stress eater. And you told in your story that even when you lost all of your weight, you were like, well, I gained some back. I was in an accident and sat around and wasn't as active and started eating and gained a little bit back. And I think, that to me, when I read that about this study, and people that, when I coach, when people are super concerned about calories because we're programmed to be worried about calories. Like when growing up, it was like you should only have X number of calories a day if you're trying to lose weight. Reading the boxes, how many calories are in, each thing that you eat, each meal. But to know that has to be, maybe it works for some people, but, in this study, how much it showed that it actually increases your appetite when more cortisol is produced, which is a result of being stressed out, that you're counting calories. And so, that in that Peter Greenlaw video that we watched at the beginning, he talks about counting calories versus making calories count. Like, are you eating the right calories? And in all of the Isagenix events that I've been to, they talk about how Isagenix has the perfect combination of carbohydrates, protein, and fat. And how people are so afraid that fat, I can't eat that because it's fattening, or there's too much fat in that. And it's like, fat doesn't make you fat.
I use raw whole milk. So basically it's straight out of the cow. And when you actually have to shake the container up every time you need to drink it, because the cream rises to the top. I don't take the cream off. I use butter. And I don't eat gods and gobs of butter, but I use butter, real whole butter, and milk and buttermilk. And I use it even in my shakes. So sometimes I use water, sometimes I use milk, sometimes I use a little bit of both. It all depends on what I like. The strawberry with milk. Tastes like eating strawberries and cream. But yeah, and so, and I eat whole foods, so nothing non-fat. I never, when I look for yogurt, I look for whole. Annie's makes a whole milk yogurt, not a part skim or partially skim. It's better that your body uses the whole foods.
I love it. There's a list of things, and I just wanted to read a couple that when, in addition to not losing weight, so we heard Peter Greenlaw talk about how our bodies go into this starvation mode, right? When we don't have enough calories or we don't eat the right calories. And then our bodies are holding on to all of those calories. But in addition, some of the biological functions that are affected are healing from cuts and bruises. So it takes us longer to heal when we don't have enough calories in our body. Hair growth and nail growth is affected, and a more limited ability to filter out toxins from the body, lower energy, and then also ovulation can be affected. And so it just really kind of enhanced my perspective around calories. And when I'm talking with people about trying to lose weight, that are really concerned about eating too much or eating, too many calories, this whole, the lack of energy and all of these other things that happen as a result of, a lot of times it's presented almost as like a no big deal kind of a thing. Like, yeah, I don't eat breakfast and I really barely eat lunch. I might grab a snack out of the vending machine at work, and then I come home and like maybe I eat some dinner, but I just kind of snack, and like it's no big deal. But it's like there are some major things that are happening within our bodies when we don't get enough calories. And so I'd like to open it up and hear from anybody else, or Deb, from you, like, how do you feel about this whole idea of calorie counting? And are you hearing from people that the same thing, like that they're Rosalie?
Well, when I coach people, not that I tell them not to watch calories. I say, don't be concerned with it. Yes, you want to reduce what you've been eating. You don't want to eat that whole bag of chips.
Right.
And I'll tell them I told them what I would do, or I did. I would have a shake. If I knew I was going to a party, I would have a shake or two a couple hours before the party. So when I would go to the party, I didn't crave all the crappy stuff. I would take a bite or two, but it was satisfying. And it's like, oh, okay, that felt good. And then I'd go on and do whatever we're doing at the party. And also, if I was hungry during the middle of the day, I would drink a half a shake. And if I ate something that really wasn't real fulfilling, I would have a half a shake or even a shake with the meal. When I would travel around to all the different offices that I would go to, I would cut up the meal replacement bars into tiny little pieces, and I'd be snacking on them in the offices, because they'd have the donuts and everything in these offices, and it's like, I love donuts. I love every kind of food, so I have to be careful, but I don't deprive myself of it. I'll take a bite or two, but I find that, if I do eat stuff greasy, it's like, oh, or I eat something that I really haven't eaten before, but I think it's going to taste good, and I eat it, and it's like, oh, it just makes my stomach feel awful, and you feel it afterwards. But by not depriving myself of just that bite, it's mental. It says, okay, I had it. Yep, tastes good. And after a few minutes, it doesn't really feel good, but at the time, it tasted good going down. But by not depriving myself of it, it mentally says, oh, it's okay, and you had a bite and it's not going to go straight to the hips.
Laura, I've heard you say that before too, and I remember actually making a post when I was on a road trip, and I had to stop at Arby's and get cheese fries. I had like curly fries with the cheese sauce. Like, I saw the sign and it was in my head and the exit was coming up, and I'm like, do I get off or do I not? And I'm like, I haven't had them in a long time and I really want these cheese fries. And I made a joke about like how excited I was to eat them, and then like this big frown face as like the after, photo, because it was like after I had a few, it was like, ugh, oh, my stomach was a wreck. And it was like I could feel the grease in my mouth. And I think Laura commented on that. I still remember, she was like, have one and walk away.
Yeah, just give yourself one or a bite, and often we'll go out to eat, or my husband and I will go out and they'll go, well, you want dessert? And I was like, yeah, my husband will have dessert, but bring 2 spoons, because I'll just have one, I have 1 or 2 little bites. That's all I need.
Yeah, who
Stop
else?
tasting it after the 3rd bite.
Exactly.
That's what I told you, Chris.
Yes, right. That's what it was.
Enjoy
Like,
those
I knew you
first
said
3
something.
bites, because after that, you're done tasting it. Now it's just pure eating for nothing.
Exactly.
3 bites. I didn't remember it being that, but I remember you had a comment about it. It's kind of like, someone told me it's the same with your sense of smell. When you wake up in the morning after like smelling coffee, like you only smell it for a certain amount of time. And then like later, and I was like, I drink coffee kind of on and off all day, and I never realized it. I'm like, you're right. I don't smell it anymore. That's so wild. What else does anybody else have to say about this whole calorie thing? Is anybody a good calorie counter? Or
I think if you pay attention to your portion sizes,
Yeah.
because that's something I never did. And once you pay attention to that,
The calories automatically are less. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what I coach on. I tell them to pay attention to the portion.
And use a smaller plate. Use a smaller plate, and you can actually make it look fuller, by pouring more on. So psychologically, you think you're getting more. But if you do that same on the big plate, then,
yeah.
It's all a mindset.
It is. And it's okay to mess up now and then, and you're feeling down about whatever, and you go eat more than you should have, but find something that's a little healthier to eat more than you should have, instead of maybe the donuts. Buy a bag of, I love frozen grapes. I buy organic frozen grapes, and I freeze them all through the summer, and I'll have extra frozen grapes, because you can't eat a lot of them all at once. Have you ever had frozen grapes?
No.
They are awesome. You take them off the vine, wash them good, and then let them dry, and then put them in plastic baggies and freeze them. And they're awesome. And so I'll eat a lot of those. I eat a lot of fruit. I love fruit. But I'll indulge in the fruit rather than cookies or chips or something of that nature.
So you mentioned that it took about 15 months.
It took 15 months, yes.
So, I mean, a lot has to happen to be able to release that amount of weight. We talked about mindset. What were some of the things that kept you on track? Like, we talked about kind of your why earlier. Can you tell us a little bit about what was happening for you?
Well, my daughter got married, and I'm thinking, I'm going to have grandkids, and I would see these other people just sitting watching their grandkids, and it's like, I want to play with them. I want to be able to teach them how to ride horses, and maybe barrel race if they get older. Barrel race horses, if you don't know what that is. But riding and doing things with them, playing with them, getting down on the floor. And even now when we go visit, we're jumping around and hanging and jumping on me and wrestling. And, it's not just sitting and watching them do it, but doing it with them. And then thinking, if I kept going the way I'm going, my husband and I, when we're ready to retire, we just moved to South Carolina a year and a half ago from upstate New York. And you know, it's nice down here. You can be outside most of the year. It's great, and I want to do a lot. I love to kayak. For a while, I couldn't get in and out of my kayak. It was rough. Um, just living, not sitting. I mean, I sit for a living, but I want to get up and do things. I want to live again. That's what it was. And I was always very active. I worked on a farm. We actually learned, my dad taught us how to fly airplanes. I want to get back into that again. And it's, and live, just be alive and enjoy every single moment. And I had to change the way I thought about stuff and myself. And I had to learn to love myself and be selfish and put myself first. That's what I had to do, because I was so used to taking care of, I have 2 children, taking care of my family, I'm the oldest of 8 kids. A couple of my sisters are overweight. They've lost a lot of weight, but then they gained it back, and they're, one had the sleeve thingy, the sleeve, not the gastric bypass, but a sleeve thing. And she lost a lot of weight, and then she gained it back again. And she tried doing Isagenix, and she got back into nursing, and she just doesn't have the mindset for it. She goes, so someday I will, someday I will, someday I will. And that's the way I was too, like, oh, I'll lose the weight again someday. But something just snapped and said, you got to do this now, otherwise you're not gonna be able to play with your grandkids. You're not going to be there for your husband, you know?
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth, because I was taking notes as we were talking earlier this afternoon. And one of the things that I wrote down that you said was, you said that you had stopped taking care of yourself, like when you had started to put the weight back on. And it really is, we talked about that it's not about depriving, and it's almost like it's seen as a punishment by a lot of people, like, oh, I was bad this weekend, I got to get back on the system right now, I got to go back. And it's like, no, that is not, this should be exciting, this should be fun. If you're hungry, like, you should eat. Like, this is not a punishment.
Exactly.
Like withholding food or depriving yourself of something. It's like, you deserve to be healthy, like to be in a healthy body. You deserve to release this weight, to take in the right calories. And so that mindset is so critical. And I love that you admitted that, you were free and open, and basically said, that's what happened, is I stopped taking care of myself. And I think there's a lot of people on this call that can relate to being caretakers of others, but not of ourselves, right?
And sometimes you would you would lose weight, and then you eat and you feel guilty, and then you would go back and eat because you felt guilty about eating, and it was this vicious cycle. And I just started doing more personal development, listening to lots of different people, on YouTube, and just having that support. I listen to it now, like when I'm doing the dishes. I have the YouTube, but on these new smartphones are great, you can listen to anywhere you go when you're walking, so you don't feel like you're wasting time when you have to sit in front of the old days when you had to actually take time and read a book. Now it's audio, and you can walk around with it, because I would say, oh, I'm wasting time sitting down reading a book, or reading this, or having to, you can't carry it with you. Everything is portable today, so you can multitask and listen at the same time. So you're not feeling guilty about doing that, taking care of yourself.
Yeah, I think, when Peter Greenlaw talked about how 98% of all diets fail, 98%. So the number of people that I talk to that I hear, yeah, I might, right now I'm doing blah, blah, blah diet, right? And so maybe I'll do that when I'm done. If that one doesn't work, then maybe I'll try, maybe I'll try Isagenix if that doesn't work. Or I just started, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I just want to say like, but like, and they admit that they're losing weight. So it looks like there's this deception that it's working. Right? Like not knowing that like, number one, what you're burning is not fat. It's probably muscle. I mean, he talked about we can only burn sugar, muscle, or fat.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're not taking in enough calories or you're doing some crazy diet that's in the 98% that don't work, then like, yes, you're going to lose weight. I mean, the number on the scale is going to change, but like what impact is that having on your hair, your nails, your body's immune system, your ability to heal itself? The fact that you're burning muscle, like that's what you want, doesn't matter if you go to the gym or not, like you're burning the wrong thing.
What's interesting too, I don't have that under the neck, the skin, losing all that weight. People would say, where's all that real flabby skin? I said, I don't know.
Wow. That's true. Yeah, he talks a lot about that. I've watched a couple of his other videos, and he also mentions the way that the impact that it has on your skin.
Because people have said, I've lost, the other people that I've known that have gone on the gastric bypass that lost all that weight, they have a lot of this sagging skin, especially around the neck.
Yeah, I have some.
I've got, my last surgery, they put right in the fold is where they put the incision.
Mm.
They had to fuse the back of my spine, 5, 6, and 7 from the car accident.
So how long has it been since you've had the 110 pounds off?
Well, I started October of 2009 is when I started Isagenix, and 15 months after that. So October, November, December, January. I think it was January or February of 2010 or 11, because it was 15 months.
And
yeah.
We're ready to come into 2018.
And I've kept, that's it. The basic thing is that I've kept it off.
Yes, I mean the rate that people are gaining this weight back, that it's like, when I heard 98% of diets fail, and it's like, oh my gosh, like that just totally enhanced, when I hear that from other people, trying other things, it's like, oh my gosh, and having been through it.
I've probably lost a total of 300 pounds with all the other diets that I've lost, gained. And you always gain more back than when you lost before.
No, that's right. Does anybody have any questions about Deb's journey or anything that she's gone through as far as, using the products, calorie counting?
Is there anything specific that the doctor said you shouldn't have or take?
Well, what he recommended I not do was do the cleanse, the fasting days where I don't eat at all. So for the first 2 years, I used the cleanse, but I used the cleanse and the Isagenix together because at first I didn't like the taste of the Isagenix, so I just mixed the ounce of Isagenix and the ounce of cleanse together in the morning, and I had that in the morning. But I always ate or had the shakes. I didn't do any fasting cleanse days totally for 2 years.
Did they say anything to you about like having to watch constipation or anything like that?
Oh, I never had any problem. The Isoflush is awesome. I still use the Isoflush. The Isoflush keeps me so regular. I've never really had an issue with, constipation. A lot of people sometimes do. I've never had an issue with that, but I noticed that my poos are like kids' poos. You know, like your kid goes to the bathroom and go, oh my God, that came out of you. So we call them kid poos. So I go about 3 times a day, but I use the IsaFlush every night. I love that. It just keeps me very, very regular. I mean, more so than before. Yeah. And whenever I have the surgeries, when I do have to go on some pain meds, I'm usually only on them for at the most a week, and they will cause constipation, and they want to give you all this other drugs for non-constipation. I said, I don't need those. I got my own stuff, and I've never had any issues with that.
I know my sister-in-law has stage 4 colon cancer. She's
Okay.
in remission now, but I know the doctors told her she has to, you know, watch what she eats because they don't want her to get constipated.
Right. Well, the shakes, and if she uses the IsaFlush is not going to have any issues with that, and the shakes will actually help her regulate her bowels. I know if I think there was about 2 weeks I didn't do any shakes, and I find my bowel movements are different. They're not as frequent as if I'm on my doing my at least 1 shake a day.
And a lot of that, I will say about, constipation and the shakes, a lot of it does depend on how much fiber and protein you're used to having before you start Isagenix. So
right,
because of the gastric bypass, and I've found this with a lot of people that I've talked to that have had bariatric surgery, is that constipation is really common because we're not used to having that much fiber and protein in our diet with regular food. So you start drinking these shakes that are so dense, full of nutrition and the minerals and the vitamins, that it's common for your body to be like, whoa, this is way more than what, even though it's good, it's just more than what your body's used to.
Yeah.
But it was like after my first week, my body figured it out, we got it regulated. And then it was like no problem after that. So I think a lot, it really kind of depends on what your diet is going into it.
Right. And the IsaFlush is very good. My mom always suffered from constipation, and she didn't want to do the shakes and stuff like that. But I said, Mom, try this IsaFlush stuff. And she swore by it. She goes, I can't believe this stuff. It's great. Yeah.
I know I breastfeed Rosalie, and I started doing the shakes. I think just about 1 every day, or it was every other day, and she got constipated.
Really?
But I didn't know if it was from the shakes or because she doesn't eat anything else. She refuses.
Okay. Do you use IsaFlush too?
No, I have the fruits and greens and then the shake.
Try the IsaFlush. Hi, you get booby juice, huh?
Yeah.
That's what we called it. I'm from a family of 8, and we all kind of had kids around the same time. And my niece goes, what are you feeding her? I says, well, you know how you drink juice out of a bottle? I said, well, this is booby juice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi.
There she is. What else, guys? Anything else about calories?
Hi, Deb. I just kind of wanted to jump on and just say congratulations and thank you so much for sharing your story. It's really inspiring. I relate to a lot of what you say, especially when you say, you've probably gained and lost 300 pounds. That's something I've definitely done as well. And, Chris, this topic tonight is something that's really awesome because I too, I've almost done the 100 pounds, and I haven't really focused on counting the calories. People ask me a lot, like, well, how many grapes can I have? Well, how many this and that? I'm like, if you're going to eat some grapes, like, that's a healthy food. Eat some grapes,
and that's kind of how I've done the whole thing too. It's like I've listened to my body and I just eat when I'm hungry. And as long as they're good, dense calories that's fueling your body, I try not to stress it too much. And just like you said, there's been some nights where I've sat here and kind of gotten munchies or eaten more than I probably should have, but they've been good, solid calories this time instead of, the donuts and the bags of chips and the things. And each one of those small little things that you can do, it really starts adding up. And like you were saying with going to dinner and, just having a bite or, ordering a sushi roll and everybody having 2 pieces out of it and sharing that and ordering something else. Like I used to feel like that, like there wasn't an abundance of, like I lived in a country where I couldn't go order it tomorrow. It was like I had to have it all right now. And so, and just like you said, that mindset shift, so just congratulations to you for getting your mindset and making that decision to live, out your life in a healthy manner and be able to do the things that you wanted to do. The most amazing thing that's happened for me is being able to live in a body that is living and that does the things that I want to get up and do each day. I did not realize how much of a prisoner I was in my own body until I really started feeling better and getting the nutrients and the dense calories. So just congratulations and thanks for sharing with us tonight.
Oh, you're welcome.
I think we've talked about mindfulness when it comes to eating too, as far as like, are you really hungry physically? Like, is your stomach growling? Are you doing a check-in? And that was something that I learned in the counseling program that I went through before the gastric bypass, was doing that check-in and starting to eat mindfully. Like, am I full right now? Because if not, they're like, you're gonna throw it back up, right? Like when your stomach's only so big that it's like you're gonna learn the hard way real fast that whole shoving in and like eating is like it is not going to work for you. And it's like, even today when I talk with people about starting Isagenix, and it's like, well, I'm afraid I'm going to be hungry. And I said, if you're truly hungry, you should eat. You should have a snack, have an apple, like whatever you would want to snack on. Isagenix has snacks, or you can have regular food. But if you are hungry, your body is saying, I'm hungry. Like
it's also saying it's thirsty. I've heard that hunger is actually a thirst. And drinking water. I always have jugs with me here.
Oh, I deserve to be better about my water. That just was like a smack in the face.
I love water. And I'll go out and I'll order a cup of hot water because I like hot water instead of cold water. And they go, oh, you want tea? I was like, no, I just want a cup of hot water. It's cold. I want to warm up my body.
Like, what? And then we have the hydrate that makes it amazing if you want to add some flavor too. But yeah, I need to do better about my water. But a couple of quick things. Hey, we're coming up on time in a few minutes. One, as reminders to all of us, to people that we coach, eat breakfast. So when it comes to this calorie thing, like this whole skipping, I'm just going to skip meals. Like, breakfast is so important. Snacking is good. Like, snacking is okay. I feel like snacking has this connotation about it. Like, snacking is bad. If you are hungry, snacking is okay. Like you just said, like, take something that's good for you, that's healthy, so that you don't go binge. We talked about BED last week, binge eating disorder. And what causes that deprivation, that mind, that devil that's sitting on your shoulder, it's that like you withhold until you can't anymore. And then it's like the whole package ends up, going into your mouth. So snack on something healthy. It's okay, because we want to burn calories, not store them. And I think this idea of like reducing calories to the degree, it can't, like, it's too many calories, it's too many calories. It's like, no, that's what you want, like treating your body as like a furnace. And the other one, you already talked about water, so that was on the list. But the last one was eating more calories earlier in the day. And so I know when I started out with Isagenix, I had a breakfast shake, and then I would have one shake for lunch. And then I was eating dinner and I was eating real late and my weight loss was slower. And when I changed it up and went to that, having my meal at lunchtime and then went for the shake at dinner, you know, and maybe a snack if I needed it, that made a gigantic difference in the way that my body was working and burning those calories and burning fat. So, you know, just some things to think about as far as like your body burning calories and not storing them. What else does anybody have to say before we have to wrap up? Anything? Well, I am so glad that you came up to me at Super Saturday and introduced yourself. It's so amazing to hear other success stories, and God knows I would have never had any idea that you had lost over 100 pounds, but just to hear your story and really, you know, what you committed to from a mindset perspective and really the way you were looking at your life, right? Like that's what this whole group is about, is living our fullest life. And so I'm grateful that in the 11th hour, when I said, I know it's kind of last minute, but would you mind hopping on tonight? And here you are. So without only about 3 or 4 hours notice, I'm super grateful that you said yes. And I know everybody else on the call is as well. So thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Anytime. Every
Monday night at 8. So we would love to have you, and obviously, you know, anybody else that wants to join. But if nobody else has anything, we'll go ahead and close for tonight. And thank you, Deb Weaver, for your story. You're an inspiration.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Good night, guys.